Hey everybody, welcome back to Champ and Sons and our City Skyline 2 series here in Averagtonville. Now, I have been away for a while on vacation and I expected to get this out to y'all earlier once I got back. However, I have been under the weather since then, so I'm finally starting to feel at least a little better to where I can try to get this out for y'all. In the last episode we built the bus station, which we're going to have to definitely work on those bus routes, I know. But one other thing I really wanted to get built was going to be the train depot and all that. To get some, possibly try to get some exporting out. So we are going to put it this portion right here next to our industrial area, which I think will help us to be able to get basically some money for the city, and to either bring in additional imports that we might need to help us kind of grow and advance, but also to help us, export some things out. And we have the main line, the main rail line that goes all the way out. We have that here, so we're going to go ahead and take advantage of this pretty quickly and try to get everything hooked up so we can start importing some of our stuff that we need and start getting some export money happening. Now, looking at it, I know we're kind of set up tight into this track section to where I want to try to get as many trains as possible. I do understand that might be a little difficult, and this is going to look pretty wonky for the time being, but I think it's something that we can make work out. It's just, I might have to look at buying that extra tile right over there, and I have this space, or at least the money to do so. So I do finally go ahead and make that happen, which will make getting this portion over here done a lot easier. Now, as with most of our things, we are going to have to, fix that up a little bit. That I completely understand, right? And I'm going to also work on trying to get some of these train routes done a little bit better. I do have to learn more about the train system that we have here in City Skylines 2, and getting certain things so I can control the number of trains that we have coming in, and the number of lines that we have in total. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. Now, our depot, it does offer some additional lines, help us do maintenance faster on them, but right now we don't really need them. Plus they don't take up space. I'm not going to have to really make any additions to it, so I'm not going to worry about those. We are going to work to extend our industrial area over here and actually move it away from the city. I guess you could say the city center. That is going to eventually become the downtown area, right where the highway comes over when we first started the city build, right? That's going to eventually be our little downtown section. But here, to do that, we have to move this industrial area over. That's just going to be a must. One thing I do build in this section is going to be a little bit of a parking lot, mainly because you got to figure that if you have people that are going to be working there, then you definitely want to have a place for them to go, right? They need a place to be able to park and so forth. So that is kind of just all we're going to be putting in right there at that moment, right in between where those train tracks kind of connect to the main outside line is going to be a parking lot. So here we are just building some of the connections over. You can tell the terrain is a little goofy. I try not to make too many changes to the terrain in general, knowing that if you are building a city, you're not going to be able to just destroy and move land anytime you really want to. I mean, if I did that, I could probably just take over half the mountains and just flatten them out to help out, but that's not really the most realistic thing in the world, so we are going to look to kind of work with the terrain that we have. And so now we got a couple terrain trains going, one to circle straight out of our little depot section into our storage thing and so forth. And while we're working on that, look at this. Electricity is becoming a massive problem. And it doesn't really show that there's a bottleneck too much anywhere that I could see. So I think it's just what we're producing and so forth versus what we are what we're producing versus what we're using is just a problem. And that's going to become a bigger amount of an issue as we kind of go, just for the simple fact that, hey, we are going to grow bigger. We are going to need more electricity going. Now, I did increase our funding for it from about 80 to 100%, so that should help some. But I do recognize eventually we are going to need a bigger power plant, or at least a better, more efficient type of power plant that produces more for our city to thrive in, right? Now, since that initial did kind of help things out, looks like maybe a little bit. Looking at the power, you think geothermal. I don't have a whole lot of water deposits where I want to put a power station at. I kind of like the industrial area being in where we kind of have it and just moving it over slightly. So it's one of those things. I'm not going geothermal. We are going to look at doing a gas power plant or even a coal power plant. Eventually, I'm probably going to get to the nuclear power plant at some point. Just not sure when that's going to happen. So I do try to make the transition over to the gas power plant, and this thing is huge. So it's definitely interesting looking at that, but it's going to produce a lot more power for us to where that thing I can turn off. And eventually I'll probably go ahead and I'll just demolish that and make for a little extra industrial areas, to go with for us. So here, trying to just build the underground connections to this main portion. I do want to have that connected to the outside world, and I completely missed on that one with the wrong kind of line. Got to get used to some of those finer details. I went with the little low-powered line instead of that heavy-duty one, which is what's needed here. So we are going to fix that right quick. And then I just take that straight across, and problem is fixed. Now that other power, there we go. Yeah, that all disappeared finally. So I did turn off our initial power plant, and at this stage I'm just going to go ahead and bulldoze it because I know I'm not going to need it anymore at this point. So there's no reason to still have it. Now ground pollution is quite heavy, but we're building it. It's going to be more of an industrial type section for now. Eventually it will move on over. Now, you will see me every now and then as some buildings become abandoned. I do start to delete them. That's just one of those. I don't like having abandoned buildings. I just really don't. So that's why I go through and delete them. That's all it is. Now here, I'm putting in some taxi shelters. We do have a bunch of taxis rolling around right now, and they are set up to pick up people that are not at these little taxi shelter things, which is okay and it works. But I think since we got a taxi system, might as well start putting some of these shelters out for people to actually go through and use them. It'll help with cost and so forth, kind of moving forward, right? So that was pretty much the pure motivation behind that, putting those little shelters out. Plus, you get a little bit of XP for everyone, which kind of helps you advance. And look at all the damn taxis. Good Lord. That is excessive. Although, as long as we got heavy usage of it, I'm all good with it. It's just one of those things that, my God, it's kind of shocking when you actually see it. We're a tiny town right now, right? We got almost 3,800 people, and we've got about 50 taxis for all of this area. Now, looking at our residential, we do have low and medium density demand, and that's something where you want to build up. And I know in these specific sections, which for right now, this is going to be kind of our medium density stuff, right? This is going to be where we're going to see a lot of our actual downtown start to build up eventually. Maybe not right now, but eventually that's where it's going to be. So we have to keep that in mind as we start zoning things out. Now here you see, once again, looking at some of the terrain, I don't want to just, as I said before, I don't want to just cut through it all. Try to work with it. And in reality, I live in Austin, born and raised Austin, Texas, not the flattest piece of land ever. There are plenty of spaces where we have, like a neighborhood that I know of very well, around the Arboretum area. It's all basically small little mountain hills. You still build a neighborhood right there. So that's what they did. and you just kind of work within the terrain. Houses are built on the sides of these hills and so forth. So that's kind of where, we went with it. And that was my thinking and making some of that and how I'm going to handle the terrain. Now, with the industry kind of kicking off and getting our cargo going, our trains going, our ability to import and export, one thing I really wanted to do is start putting down some farms, right? So this is our rural section. It's kind of like a small little neighborhood, if you will. Not sure why I decided to bulldoze that at the time I did. It just seemed like it was a good idea. Could not tell you why, and it really wasn't that great of an idea. So I'm basically going to put one back in after I build out a little bit more of these farms here, and some of this more fertile land. But this is a rural section. You will see primarily farms going in. Not going to see a whole lot of massive big industry kind of things coming over here. Eventually, I think I am going to put in a train over here. I just not sure when I'm going to do that. I haven't decided on when to do that just yet. So we're putting the animal farm right back in where it was, because it just was kind of foolish of me to delete that without thinking. And there we go. Everything's kind of right back to normal. Getting in a lot of our production, kind of getting that increased so we can go ahead and improve that, which will help us really balance out our budget. We're still losing money, which, I guess you can say, all right, well, I kind of expect that. But so be it. Now, some of these residential things you'll notice whenever I look at the fertile land, it does look like it's right on it. That's going to happen sometimes with these communities like this. So, yeah, it's one of those kind of, it's one of those, it is what it is kind of situations. You know what I mean? So that's what we were looking at. And that's why I did it. Basically for that sense. It's just to continue to build out, meet some of our lower density demand, and really make this into kind of a small town section. That I think, if you look at some of the bigger cities, at least where I live at in Austin, some of the surrounding cities are these really smaller town feel places, which I think really kind of fits in with what we're doing right here in this section of our little rural part of our city. And I did put in, and you'll notice a couple of those buildings, thinking, well, what are those things? Those are just some commerce buildings, right? They're basic shopping little buildings. They're think of it like your local Stop and Rob, gas station type thing. So that's what we're looking at. That's kind of what those are. Now, seeing what else our needs are, we do have only 4 more development points, being at level 5. And we do have a college, which I haven't built, right? And I'm hesitant to, because I don't know if we are truly ready for that yet as a city. But at some point, it's definitely going to be needed. I don't think we're at a university level right now. I really don't. So we are going to at some point put in a college. It's going to eventually turn into what would amount to, a community college, right? That's essentially what that would become, is a community college. And so we will do that. It's just, right now, I just don't think this is the time for it with the demand that we have going on. It's just not showing that we're quite ready for that yet. So we do need to keep getting our city set up to be expanded, not just for commercial or for residential, but in every way possible. Because we know in the city skylines, your demand for residential, sometimes, man, it may go from 0 to 100 real quick. Other times it kind of lingers down low, but then just takes off in a sheer instant. As you can see, it's kind of building right now. Even as these houses get built, it never really gets down to a point where it's not required, which is kind of an interesting little setup with the city, especially one that's losing money in the way we are right now. But we're going to fix that. I promise y'all, we will fix that. Now, here we are going to be doing some terraforming out here. This is the whole building into the side of a hill kind of situation. We are going to move some of this around, not too terribly much. Once again, because you're going to have a hard cliff edge one way or the other. At some point in this little section of the city, there is going to be a hard cliff edge, and it's just kind of determining, well, where is that going to be at? And also, how are we going to get up here? You want more than just one route to come up into this little neighborhood section. I originally thought maybe that might become a gated community, I do have little special plans for that later on once we start getting once we start getting some more of those specialized buildings that you see, especially once we start putting down like the rock stars mansion or the artist mansion or something. We will start looking at that kind of stuff, but for a gated community. Originally it was designed to be that section we just saw. Now, some other things to drive up demand here. Communication. I want to put in something like a post office. I really do. But once again, we got 4,100 people. And so I do struggle with the thought of it. It does cost a lot of money. There's a large upkeep to it. And in reality, maybe one of those, there's a nice little oil reserve right there, which I do check. No, I'm not going to build an oil reserve right next to the town. And that's great. Just so happens the most common natural disaster in City Skylines 2 is a tornado. Actually, tornadoes the only, and I'm assuming fire are the only ones I've seen. I don't know if there are any others. I would be interested to know, though. If y'all have seen any other of the natural disaster stuff that goes on, let me know. This is a little, the mountain village thing. So it may be limited into what we can have. But still, let me know, because these tornadoes become kind of a little pain in the butt every now and then. They will destroy the farms. And thanks to that, I got a film actor's mansion. Lovely. See that little island right there? The hotel thing I'm not putting in the island, but there are those 3 other little houses that definitely could belong there. And this hotel I do want to put down, but at the same time, I really think I need to wait till my downtown starts truly forming before placing that bad boy down. And looking at some of the size of that one, it's not too terribly big, and that little island right there, it should fit in perfectly. Destroyed by weather, and see, that's one thing I don't like. It can destroy. See, it doesn't say the house is destroyed, the farmhouse, just that one little building is destroyed by weather. So it's one of those. I don't know why we can't just delete that little piece and keep the remainder of the farm. I really don't. It's just one of those things that kind of bugs me. Traffic in City Skylines 2. I know people have said, oh, well, it's a lot better and stuff, and I guess it is, than what you see in what we saw in City Skylines 1. The roundabouts tend to possibly make things a little bit easier. For me personally, I don't know how I feel about them in all reality, but it does seem to, at least for a little while, help the flow of traffic. I will say one thing that I think is kind of crazy good about this game. With the way the traffic's done, is the fact that you will see traffic at certain parts of the day, right? You will. There will be peaks to the traffic, and so forth. So it's kind of interesting in that way to see that kind of thing happen. Now, looking at some of our goods that we are making, exporting, importing, we're still trailing in that area. Hey, we're a growing city. Like I said, we're just at a tiny town, okay? This is going to happen. We're going to have some deficits, all right? We're not going to become super rich. 4 vehicles in maintenance. You've got to be kidding me. Why do we have 4 in maintenance? Oh, well. Minor detail, I'll figure that one out. It's going to take me some time to deal with really learn, understand, and figure out the trains and all that stuff. So it will take time, but we will get it figured out. I promise y'all that. So here they are still destroyed. I think I'm gonna have to. I don't want to destroy them, but I'm gonna go ahead and do that and just rebuild them real quick. It's one of those make life a little bit easier kind of things. I could wait for the game to do it, or I could just do it myself. And so I'm just going to do it myself. It's pretty much all I decide. So yeah, that's pretty much what we are thinking here. Getting this rules section developed. Getting kind of frustrated. The simple fact of stupid Nader tore down my farms. Now I got to rebuild them. Oh well. Rules section. I do like the way this is coming along. I really do. And as I'm seeing it, hindsight, obviously always being 2020, I might want to destroy that neighborhood right there in the middle of that fertile land and build a farm or something there. I'm not too certain. I've already played some more and I've already recorded some more, so that may not be the most doable thing in the world, but I might just do it. I might have to. We'll have to see. And then there are going to be big changes in upcoming episodes. That I can tell you for certain. Big time changes happening. One of the roads that we have that kind of leads us around the city, the main entering road, how we kind of changed that up in one of the last episodes, that's going to see some big time changes going forward. And I mean some big time changes going forward. We're talking about possibly highway. I'm really thinking about it. 1, never truly built a highway. 2, I think we might need a highway that loops around eventually. Once we start expanding our map out, I think that'll actually look really good and help us kind of flow everybody into certain different areas of the city. So, that's kind of what I'm going for. Looking at parks, I do know that entertainment for the people is a big deal. So we'll have to keep that in mind. There are these large plazas and everything. Sports parks I prefer because I think that does more for the people overall. But I do know that these large plazas definitely do help as well. And having some open space, go and plop it down. It's going to be attractiveness. It's going to get people in, and so forth. So we do have a couple different districts. Elm Ridge and Hawthorne Ridge. If you'll definitely think of a different name for a district, or you want to help create a district like with our farming community, definitely put that in the comments. Let me know. We'll get that named up in the next episode that we do have. And next episode I get recorded for y'all, we'll get that named and start putting in there and start looking at some of the policies for these districts that we can. So, train routes. Blue line. Green line is still at 0% usage. No, Hawthorne Junction's that district. Okay. We're going to go ahead and spritz out some more of these taxi locations. It's a big, heavily populated area. That's really all that's in there. There's some commerce, but with the living situation, I think it really does work out that well. Parking fee, we're going to move that up. Take advantage of the people. That parking lot is full. I will have to start looking at that too. So talking about district policies, street parking. Man, talk about a moneymaker. Completely forgot about that. And then just boom, click it on, and eventually you will start making a little bit more money. Who knew? So that's hopefully going to bring in some revenue. We are still in the negative. We're working our way up to the positive though. Keep in mind, as a tiny town, looking to see if we can expand to grow bigger. So we are going to have to shift some stuff. Hopefully our industrial area, we're going to start sliding that over slowly to allow for the land that it's on right now, once we move it, become unpolluted. It is heavily polluted land at this time, but we're trying to get it to become unpolluted. So we are going to look to move that over. I know we're going to need to build a college, which is kind of what I'm looking at right here. And this is basically, think of it like a community college in a sense, right? That's what I would say, think of it as. This isn't, I live in Austin, right? So it's not University of Texas. This is Austin Community College at its best. And that's really just what I'm doing, trying to get some more well-educated people in here, because that's going to help with some of the development of the land and a lot of that stuff kind of increasing going forward. And so looking at what to buy, I had 2 skate parks side by side. I didn't even realize that. So next to that gas station, I'm putting in the school, and we get to our next level just like that with textile farming. Heavy traffic ban, I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I'll see. I'll have to start playing around with some of this stuff as we go, right? So I did put that down. It's probably going to move, although I kind of like the location of it, oddly enough, even as I think about it while doing this voiceover. So it may not move, but I think we are going to definitely at some point have to put in we're definitely going to have to put in, a college somewhere. Now we're just looking at services. I just really want to try to get my budget going in the proper direction. Then we can start toying a little bit more, fine-tuning it once we get everything going. But right now we do have kind of an overabundance of Summit stuff, and that's going to allow us to make things happen to where we can you can get things going in and out. Now here goes one train, double train track, green line. Oh, all right, here comes another one. So we got some stuff working here. I do like seeing that. That is a positive. All right. Oh, and before we get too close to the end of this episode, I do just want to remind y'all to hit the subscribe button if you have not hit it already, and give us a thumbs up if you do like how we are going and how this city is growing. Looking at these areas to expand, we got a lot of stuff to do. Any input that y'all have, feel free to put that down into the comments. I'll try to put it into all the builds that we do on this, because I definitely want y'all to be a part of this series as we expand Averagtonville out and to try to become a big time city here between these two little big time city and the tiny mountain village. So that's our goal in this one. I am going to hop off here in just a minute and let y'all get some final little view shot of the city. But first, just kind of giving it some overview. I do like how things are developing here. I had a quick little fire. I love watching those things. You never see the little fire station people, ever. But yeah, it's fun to watch the animation kind of occur. Now, we do have high density demand going on. This is lower rent stuff for the most part. I probably need to start putting that at 1 just to kind of mess around with sizing. I'm not going to do too much, but I definitely need to get that going. So we're going to put that down here. This will be the last thing before I leave y'all off. And so you can get a nice little view of the city here in a second. And as always, everybody, stay safe. And, well, y'all know how it goes by now, right? Later, y'all.